Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 6:30 Thursday morning. Wow, I am just assisting to the greatest show on earth. I usually wake up at about 5:30 when I do these live streams. Usually it's about 5 o'clock that I wake up every morning. But so I had my alarm set, but I woke up at 4 o'clock and assisted here to some interesting developments between two cats that I have. So I have my own cat, and then my brother just brought his own last night. So he's going to Florida. Just a little introduction here. And they brought this cat over, and oh my goodness, they're just fighting and chasing each other. So they woke me up at 4 o'clock. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I just made a coffee. And started looked over the charts and start to prepare for the stream. How's everybody doing? Let's see, maybe we can get more people in here. Hi, Bobby. So interesting. Hope you can hear me okay. Yep, Charlie, hi. Seems like I'm live. All right. Definitely a super interesting market. I'm super excited. We have lots to talk about. We're going to take a look at the futures here to get started, jump over on a macro list to see where we are, man, in this overall picture. What's going on? Are we find a low? Are we going to crash even lower? What's going on, right? The markets have been acting like really goofy, man, for the past few weeks in here. Like you can't really put the finger on it, but we're getting to some extreme stuff, and I think things are going to look better here for the summer. I hope so. I want to enjoy going on vacation, and just don't have to look at the charts all day long, right? Then we'll take a look at the SP500, see what's happening in there. If we can get any clues out of that price action, take a look at rotations, what's going on between assets and sectors, obviously crypto. Something on the XLE and the energy story there, some performance, some seasonality, which is super interesting. The US dollar, man, that US dollar it's been going to the moon, but I think we're getting close to an end on that as well. So I think we are at some important juncture here in the overall assets, and things are gonna look interesting for sure, even more interesting than they do now. They're probably gonna calm down. I mean, this volatility has been crazy. So let's get going. I'm loaded up on coffee since 4 o'clock. I have another cup here ready to go. So if you hear me taking a sip, please forgive me. It is still very early, but I like these because it kind of keeps me sharp. And then I can focus on the markets a little bit later once they open at about 8:30. So we'll go through these interesting stuff. All right, NASDAQ. Look at the sell-off yesterday. Bam. Look at that. I mean, if that's not a third wave, I don't know what it is. That's a 30-minute chart. Possibly another low if the structure is not fully complete. I think it is. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5. So back into the support, it should lead to a recovery, if not, by open, maybe by noon today, maybe by the end of the day, we'll see. But I think this thing is coming, maybe pushing back towards, back here towards 12,000 in the NASDAQ. Taking a look at the 1-hour chart. They're retesting these lows. So very cool. If it's an impulse, that's a little bit of a problem, because if we're going to get a pullback, then we might make a new low before we recover even further. But so far, these lows are holding on the futures, 11,820 on the NASDAQ. I'm still long this puppy, so it hurts a little bit right now. We've had a little bit of a rally. I was looking for high, and I didn't close it, so I'm stuck now a little bit here. But let's see what happens. The S&P 500 also retesting these lows again, just a nice 5-wave decline back here. And this is the story. Is this a retest of the low in what could be a second wave, and then you're getting a rally or a C wave higher, or you're going to continue to kind of crash lower here? Because you can also look at this as a fifth coming down. I'm getting a bunch of breadth indicators that are diverging really heavily in here. So we are towards the end of this puppy. I'm not sure if maybe move a little bit lower, but not by much. So that's kind of where my head is at here. Definitely a kind of a big failure up there, back at about 40,090, 4,093. Yep. All right, Dow Jones. Dow Jones made a new low, 39.55, trying to recover here. Russell, not that bad. So you can see, I think what's going on is the small sectors, the small caps in here are acting a little bit better. And you could see this yesterday, like most of the sell-off was in the large caps, in those safe sectors. You looked at the utility sold off, but consumer staples were the one that were hit the most, right? Everything that had to do with the consumer, they got kind of taken to the woodshed. You looked at Target, you looked at Walmart, Costco, all these guys were just like, and then, some of the uglier stocks out there, right? The ones that have been selling off for a while, I've been holding nice and steady, like in the high beta names and high risk ones in there. People are buying bonds too. They're buying bonds because we're looking for a little bit of safety in here, and that's the only place where you can at least find it. Ever since we found the low here, maybe in the first week of May. So since then, we've stabilized into going lower in notes and bonds. So we're getting a little bit of a reaction out of there, and the biggest one, it's up in the 30, because that's the longer end of the curve here, and these bonds are getting bought a little bit more. So yields are coming down. So my question to you is this market trying to tell us something regarding where the economy is going? If the yields are going to continue to go down in here, is the Fed going to continue to press the acceleration on increasing rates? That is the discussion that we're going to have for the next few months, for the next few meetings, hiking cycles in here, because they're saying we're going to go 50, then we're going to go another 50, and the economy seems to be struggling. So that's the discussion that's worth having, and the bond market is the one that usually signals all of this before anybody else. So keep an eye on this one. It's very important. If this bonds continue to push higher, you're going to get yields lower. And you might get a relaxation in risk. Gold starting to kind of look a little bit better out of here, maybe an impulse with a little bit of a pullback, and it's trying to kind of get back to the upside. So big three waves decline so far. Is this a low? You could argue for that now that you're getting a little bit of a reaction out of here. So if it is, then at least 100% equality between this move and this move, if not 161.8, maybe for a move back towards 1860, 1880. So it might not be such a bad idea to trade gold from the long side. Looking stops below 1787, below the swing low. But if you want to be, a little bit more close to the price action here, below 1800. And see if this thing can squeeze a little bit higher for a trade. Commodities have been selling off a little bit in here, so oil coming back, copper pushing as well. So this is what I want to see, when I'm looking at risk. Definitely with the market sell-off and the slowdown overall, the copper has been selling off, but we're trying to create a low here. Nice impulse followed by a pullback. So keeping an eye on copper, because copper and Bitcoin are highly correlated. Bitcoin, after this big low here, 25,350 on the futures, creates an impulse higher on the futures market, pulls back in three ways. I like what I see. Give me something. Give me any 100% equality here, maybe an upcoming rally today, tomorrow, early next week. But the future price doesn't look as bad as maybe the cash looks. Cash looks a little bit worse in terms of the structure. This looks much better. Look at the 36,000 gap that's unfilled. They can stay unfilled for a long time, but this is where we are. So a big rally out of here could take us all the way up there pretty quickly in a third wave. Even if it's an ABC, you can probably squeeze up into that close up in there. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Take a look at the euro. I'm bullish on euro as well. Why am I bullish on euro? Because I'm bearish on the dollar. Why am I bearish on the dollar? Because The dollar has been hitting high levels in here. I mean, I'll show you the larger charts in a second. This guy, it's at 105. That was the top for now. And, you know, we seem to be coming back. I've been talking about it here. Watch the reaction, because it does look like it's a terminal move and it's pulling back, and then it aggressively sold lower. It could be a fourth and a fifth on ABC. If you get a 5-wave move in here, that's encouraging for further downside. That should help Bitcoin. That should help risk assets. And that's probably not going to be too positive for commodities, I have a feeling. Commodities have been rallying with the dollar rallying. What? That's not usually how this works, but here we are. And then here is a 10-year kind of coming back. What is my net gas? Because I'm short on this puppy here. Net gas 811. You know, gave me a little bit of a profits overnight. I'm still doing fine, but it is pulling back slightly. However, I'm going to continue to prefer the short side in here. We took advantage of this short for a little bit, took advantage of this short here. And this guy is just, I mean, look at the RSI. RSI here, RSI dropping. So with every single swing that it makes, the relative strength in natural gas continues to drop. So that's a major signal that natural gas could come back lower towards $6, or is it $6 probably? And then, you know, and then lower. I don't know if I'm going to stick around for such a long thing, but hey, if you give me a move here back to 7, you know, I'll take it. This is golden in the price of natural gas, because these contracts move pretty quickly. And then the other one I'm short is corn, ZC. Why am I short corn? Because I'm kind of bearish on these commodities, because I think everybody's been going nuts about them, and you can see wheat and corn and all these, you know, screaming to new highs. We're going to have a famine. It's a global shortage in food, and everything is going to go crazy. We're going to have a World War III. What? I don't know. The seasonality here says that for the next, for the next few months, we're going to come down in commodities, and I want to take advantage of that by looking at some shorts here after this in corn on the weekly. Look at this market. Look at the RSI. Look at this guy, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I don't know. Okay, squeeze me higher one more time. 830, maybe 840. I don't know. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think we're coming down. So that's where we are on the futures. I just wanted to kind of run you quickly through a little bit of a story here to give everybody a little bit of an overall view on that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and switch to this right here. And we'll talk about a few things here for a second, and then we'll jump over on some Elliott Wave counts. Share screen, continuing with the story. Let me see, can you guys see it? I think so. Yep, it's in there. Let me just take a sip of coffee here. I'm coughing. I got something stuck in my throat here. One sec. All right, let's go. I'm going to come back to this. Well, actually, since I'm here, let's just talk quickly about this. CPI 820, coming back. Watch the global commodity markets below. Look at what happens to the commodities after the inflation peaks. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay. I put a chart last night about the Google searches on inflation, and they're going through the roof, you know. So if you wanted to go long, Google searches for inflation, I think it's a little bit late now, and that could be a sentiment indicator for peak inflation. We're going to continue to watch that as we're coming back next month on the data. But if this thing is slowing down, that's going to give the Fed a reason to pause or ease off on their super hawkishness in here. I'm going to have a talk to Jay Powell if I can. Probably he won't talk to me, I guess. And then, but we'll watch these commodity markets as well, because if inflation peaks, these guys are going to crash like you haven't seen it yet. Okay, that's that. Quick look at the macro daily picture on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you sweet Bitcoin. Let me just refresh this, just to kind of give us the fresh charts. 29,332 on the cash market, super nice. I wouldn't call it a hammer, but just a long rejection week out of those 26, 25.5 levels on the futures on very high volume. We are starting to climb. The volume kind of, tempered down a little bit in here. The RSI is pulling higher. So there's plenty of reasons to believe that this thing could have some traction to the upside based on this sort of a capitulation move from 40,000 to 26,000, right? There might be people that are still stuck there thinking that, oh my goodness, this was still going to go down to 20,000. Hey, maybe. We got levels at about 22, 24. So in terms of Elliott Wave, it's really quite possible. In terms of sentiment, I'm not sure. I think that there could be some, worth looking the other way. Here is the MACD line diverging in here seriously. The levels in here are still kind of flat, but basically what's telling you is that the downtrend is losing momentum. And when you see this crossover in here, it might be time to kind of pounce that. Look at the NASDAQ composite. So these are the 3,700 stocks in NASDAQ composite, diverging in here as well on the MACD. The sell-off, it's a little bit on the lower volume. We did not make a new low. On the futures, we're retesting these. So we'll see how we're going to open, maybe with the gap lower when these markets open. But plenty of indicators here suggest that there could be a further recovery in there. Look at gold, coming here, starting to turn on the MACD line. Might need to wait a little bit more. It's a flat market. The 200-day sits above at 1836. So I talked about gold a little bit earlier. There could be a little bit of a rally there, but not much on the bigger picture. Okay, although this is a three-wave move, big one. So I don't know, big triangle. Big level of support. So treat it as such until it becomes a five-wave move. Look at it as a three-wave move. NASDAQ, the same like the NASDAQ, like the composite, but this is just the largest 100 stocks in there. Starting to diverge in here. Another little bit of a sell-off. Why not just scare people one more time after you've had a pretty decent rally out of here? So let's see what happens today and into the end of the week. SP500, big sell-off yesterday, one of the biggest in a long time, right? I mean, we've had a few, but this one was quite large. But the momentum is starting to wane in here. Look at this, guys. Look at that. Just nicely trending higher here. So got to look under the hood, man. Got to look under the hood and see what you can find. Here, US dollar. So this puppy crossed over already. 103.86 after 105. It's an uptrend, right? So you can't really argue with that. It's an uptrend. The question is the uptrend over? It's early. You're getting some decent indication that it might be. It's probably going to dance around a few more weeks, play with our heads more. But listen, this guy is probably cooked. So that's my 2 cents. For this thing to rip higher from what it is right now, you need something to break in the credit market, something to break in the equities, some kind of an extreme risk event where the dollar just, there's an extreme shortage or whatever across the globe, and these guys, all scramble to find dollars, right? And you know what happens. When that happens, the Fed comes and provides liquidity, and then it crashes back. So let's just kind of breathe a little bit here about the dollar. Here is the 10-year yields coming back down, 288. MACD was starting to kind of tell you it was diverging in here. Look at this line. I know it's on the daily, but I think it warrants paying attention to this guy coming a little bit lower. maybe towards the 50-day to 63. If below that, then you can have a much bigger reversal in yields. Okay, because 3%, 3.1, 3.2 to service the U.S. debt, that's a little bit on the high side. Plus, you're looking at the U.S. mortgages, guys. Come on, 5%, 525, 550 for a U.S. 30-year U.S. mortgage. No wonder the housing market is slowing down, and that's what the Fed wanted. And I think they're going to eat it, because when they're playing with fire, they can break a whole lot of things here. And again, I don't have a direct line to Jay Powell, but you know what I mean. All right, oil. Listen, oil market is very sloppy, very, very sloppy. Look at the volume into this rise. Volume was losing as this guy went towards 130. This 130 is probably going to stay there for a long, long time. Yeah, we need energy and all the stories and all that. I know. But I don't know. I mean, this is like a big high, and you've been coming and correcting, and this is sloppy. This is not impulsive. Where are you going to go after this move? Are you going to go to new all-time highs? That's hard for me to believe. So, I don't know. The story tells me that the oil is probably going to come back down towards 80, maybe even 60. Who knows? Maybe 60 is a stretch. But all right, IFA, which are the older developed markets without U.S. and Canada. Nice divergence in the MACD. Look at that. Low, pushing higher. Divergence here, crossover. Developed markets, pay attention on that. Treasury bond. This is the TLT that follows the 20. Big divergence in here. So when you're talking lower yields, higher bonds, this is what I mean. You can see it clearly a little bit more here. We want to see a little bit more volume in here, but it's starting to look fairly decent. Still in a big downtrend. So just kind of keep an eye on it. Okay, you don't have to buy it today. All right, let's continue. I lost Bobby here. I've got. Let me see. Let me check if. Let me check, Charlie, if there is any questions in here in the chat. No, everybody's sleeping, I think. Any questions, Charles? Any questions on this? You good? Good. All right. If you have a mic, you're welcome to jump in. If not, I will keep going. Keep going. Let's see here. So, quickly over the SP 500. I think maybe people want me to talk about cryptos, but you know what? Cryptos are interesting, but they follow the other risk assets. So until we're going to get a little bit of a movement out of the, out of the stocks, out of these indices, those guys are not going to rally right away. So that's kind of what I'm watching. I have an eye on the futures here that continue to look, still fairly decent. So this is the SPX 50 years line. This correction was what? 48%. This correction was what? 50%. This correction, 20%. So if it really wants to go, it's got plenty to do so. 50% would be all the way back here. Hopefully this doesn't happen, because that's the COVID lows kind of a push. Still in a big generational, secular bull trend in here. So it looks pretty darn good. McLean oscillator, this one, it's a breadth indicator that just kind of, looks at a difference between the number of advancing and declining issues in here, and it's diverging. This kind of takes an EMA of the advance minus declines on a 19-day period. And if it's, above 39-day, that's a positive. And then, if the 19 days below the 39-day, that's a negative. So in here, you can see how it's starting to diverge and look a little bit higher. And even if you look longer term here, this is the summation index. The divergence between this low and this low starts to be quite big. So the market is running out of breath. The market is running out of momentum in here. Less and less stocks are really participating into this. So definitely something that's under hood that I wanted to show you. we talk about this index percentage of stocks. I mean, this is the number of stocks below the 200-day. They're still, quite low, 141. So that's a little bit of a worry back in there. The 50, even with almost a new low in the SP 500, did not. 16% on this. So we're probably going to start to show more divergence in here, which is what I want to see, because it starts from the 20-day, from the 50-day, and then it moves over to the 200-day. And that will tell you that the market can recover. Here's the sentiment, still pretty bearish, but less bearish. So a couple of weeks ago, we've had extremes in this, AAI bulls versus bears on the difference between them was down at about -40. And we're starting to look a little bit better, which means that those lows here were pretty bad, and that could have marked more of a capitulation low. Even if you're going to sell a little bit lower, this thing is going to probably continue to trend higher, and as that happens, usually indicates an upcoming rally. Here is the 150 week moving average sentiment AAI percentages above 20 and 50, so that's the breadth. Bullish percentage index. This also, it's interesting. This refers more to the stocks that are on point and figure charts. Excuse me. And basically, they favor the bulls when it's above 50%, and when it's below 50%, it kind of favors the bears. So it's still on a bearish trend in here, but when it gets below 30, it's quite extreme. This thing is starting to climb higher with the indices kind of coming lower. So usually when you get into these extreme values in the bullish percentage index, again, that's a contrary indicator that's worth paying attention to. So keep an eye on this one, because, as less and less stocks, are showing a negative momentum, this thing is going to push higher. So new highs versus new lows, it's also kind of diverging in here. We're having, less new lows versus new highs. So that's definitely interesting. Advanced decline line still looks pretty bad in here. So more issues declining than advancing in here overall. But, it looks up there that we have a little bit of a divergence between price and that. So just kind of a little bit of a green shoot in there. I continue to look at that. Kellner channels. Nope. Okay. Next, relative rotation graphs. What's going on in the world overall? We're coming back into the commodity markets. People are not necessarily they're dumping them, but they're losing momentum. DJP and GSG. US dollar on the weekly has been leading. It's starting to curl over and lose momentum in here. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. That's coming from the charts. Real estate got hit pretty badly, and then the bonds and the S&P, it's still just kind of sitting in there. People are very cautious on this as well. The next one, I wanted to quickly show you the sectors on the S&P 500. So energy losing momentum, utilities losing momentum, XLP, especially with what happened yesterday. I think next week this thing is going to show a big curl over. Healthcare lower, materials, losing a bit of momentum. Real estate definitely. Who's coming up on the improving quadrant? Things that kind of you don't really see, but underneath the hood, a bunch of these stocks are starting to kind of look better. XLC, XLK, financials pushing higher. XLY curled back. That's a problem because it's just the consumer. But pay attention to these four sectors in here because they will show you a recovery in the market. So that's what I had to say about that in the rotations. So now we're going to take a look at the XLE. So XLE in here, energy, because I'm a little bit focused on that. I like what's going on in some of these indicators. So if you can see this chart here, it's the XLE, and the ones below is the oil services, OIH ETF, and this is XOP, which is explorers and producers, right? Still all in the oil industry. XLE is making new highs, OIH and XOP not confirming. Okay, so usually, the sector under current conditions is probably the last one that's going to get hit. It's been the biggest performer year to date. If you take a look at this right here, year to date, 48%. It's the biggest performing sector out of here. The rest of them, you know, barely positive and then negative, everything else. So this guy is like, come on, you know, we're 6 months into this year almost, and you're giving me a 50% return. Can you sustain that? And what happened here? Did I lose my? Okay, I'm back at it here. Okay, fine. So this is, you know, these subsectors here, they're showing you that they're not really pushing higher. So keep an eye on this, because if this guy starts to drop, you're getting below 78, 76 in here, in the XLE, this thing could have a nice pushback, nice push to the downside. Okay, so that's just a quick touch on the XLE, just to kind of tell you my view on that. And then we're going to go quickly and talk a little bit about seasonality. So here's the US dollar seasonality. Look at this, guys. I don't know. This is where we are in this line right now. That's where we are. This did not really respond this year. You know, it was pretty bullish, but this is a big period of down price action in the dollar from now all the way until, what is this, October. So that's a few months of downside price action seasonally on the US dollar. Now, you know, we could get an outlier year here, but I don't know. I think that this thing, it's, you know, there's a pretty good reason to kind of look at this and think about it. The other one here that I wanted to show you was the corn seasonality. You know, why am I talking about corn? Because it's interesting. It's interesting. Look at the seasonality in corn. Why am I shorting it? Why am I shorting it? Because of this and because of that fifth wave. So there is money to be made, you know, not just in cryptocurrencies. There is some other stuff that looks definitely interesting. You want to short wheat. You want to short coffee. Let's see here. Let's go back. Here is wheat. Here is wheat. You know, looking pretty good for maybe for the next few months in here, you know, a couple of months, whatever. And then coffee looks pretty much the same. Anyway, let's continue to go and jump over to talk crypto. VIX, listen, VIX is, you know, I was just looking at VIX versus Bitcoin in here. Usually it's Bitcoin responding nicely on elevated VIX. You know, we did make a new high in here and a low, so maybe I have to move this line over. It did not respond to this high in VIX, so very high levels here. So you know, the markets continue to kind of be pressured, but you know, it's a fair assumption because you have more bounces from a high VIX in the Bitcoin than not. So keep an eye on these levels compared with you know, with the price of Bitcoin, because I think it's interesting. On the trend model, you know, we're still, let's say, pretty bearish a longer term here. Medium term, maybe we're diverging a little bit. So we're asking for a recovery, and then on a shorter time frame, we're still near the lows. So I'm looking for signs on Bitcoin to see if we can recover based on some of these moving averages here, right? From the 5 week, 5 and 13 week, 21 and 34 week, and kind of see what they're telling us in there. Let's see here. Here is the dollar strength. So I talked about this too. Here are the shaded areas where, you know, there was a little bit of an underperformance, let's say in Bitcoin, because the US dollar was so strong. Similar story here, US dollar very, very strong, and Bitcoin did not go anywhere. And if the dollar finds a top and it starts to get into a period of downside, the message is that, you know, risk assets, Bitcoin, everything else could continue to recover. So the dollar, I think, is the most important, one of the most important pieces of the puzzle here, because it's going to be the one that's going to signal, you know, at least a recovery if not a complete reversal. But that's why I'm watching this. So besides counts, besides all of that, I think looking under this, it's important. Here is Bitcoin versus copper, continuing to come down. I'm looking for signs in here of divergence. Copper is starting to push a little bit higher, where Bitcoin is still hovering. Bitcoin is not 29,426. What is that? So maybe I gotta refresh this or something. Is it? No. Oh yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah, 29.4. So, but the copper, we'll see what they're going to do today. But watch this, because it's definitely interesting to see the SP 500. They kind of continue to move in lockstep in here versus Nasdaq as well. Lockstep. Look at this super high correlation. I mean, this is 1-to-1 almost in here as a risk asset. Performance. Oops. 36% down in Bitcoin versus only 1768 in the S&P 500. So, if you hold more stocks than Bitcoin, you didn't lose that much. But that's the funny part. And then here is with the rest of the kind of the field in here. Look at this, Bitcoin 37, the worst performing assets, at least in this basket. You're looking at the S&P 500, TLT. USO up 45%, we all know that. GLD flat, dollar up 8%, emerging markets minus 17, and QQQ minus 26. So high beta asset, very high beta. It's going to give you beautiful gains on the upside, and it's going to hurt you the most on the downside. And that story continues until it changes. All right, it's 7 o'clock, 7:07. Let's see if there was anything here that I wanted to show you. Bitcoin versus Coinbase. Now, on the other hand, if you hold Bitcoin and you didn't hold Coinbase, things look pretty good. 36% only decline versus 75 since the beginning of the year in Coinbase. Ouch. Poor Coinbase. Might be an interesting place to start betting on it, but I don't know. I think the story with Coinbase is too much, too deep, too crazy. Not a stock that really interests me. I mean, I'd rather just buy Bitcoin than buy Coinbase. Bitcoin versus GBTC. Okay, a little bit closer in here. GBTC minus 45. This is minus 36. Actually, not a bad idea to maybe start adding some GBTC to my ETF portfolio there. I have some, but I think it could be a good place to get some exposure without necessarily buying direct Bitcoin, especially that it's trading at a discount. So I might just do that today or tomorrow on GBTC. All right, ratios, nope. All right, time to jump over to the counts and see what's going on. Actually, you know what? Let's look at the crypto basket on the daily and go to some of these alts and see kind of how they look on the daily time frames. And then we'll jump over to see the counts a little bit better, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go view all, because I got about 40 or 50 in here, and this is on the daily time frame. So Bitcoin, no, this is Aave. Sorry, 84.72, acting slightly bullish today. RSI coming back from oversold. Volume come down a little bit in here. Look at the MACD trying to cross over. We might get a little bit more recovery in Aave. ADA. This one, looked pretty good. I think in terms of the counts, it came into 38%. I've done a video on that. A nice rejection out of these levels in ADA. And, now with a little bit of a pullback. So we like pullbacks after a nice impulsive move. So pay attention to this. And if we take the lows, then it's a problem. But even if we do, I think the big part of the move has already been made on the downside, which means that any other decline is going to be at a lower rate and will favor a squeeze to the upside rather than a continuation lower. Algo with a very nice move as well. Big crush lower in here towards, what was it, 30 cents or something? 35 in Algo. And now we're coming back from, staying about 44 cents in here, below 50. To gain more confidence in these guys and to start to look to them from the upside, might want to wait until this 50-day moving average gets taken back. That could be a big signal that the bulls are coming back. Until that happens, it's still ugly. You know, we had a little bit of a chance here, and then they fall apart. Now resistance. So a little bit of a green shoots in here, starting to look interesting, but there might be some waiting still to be done in here. Atom. A similar story, a little bit of a crossover in the MACD, starts to look good. RSI there. So they're all trying to base in here, right? It's a matter of, hey, are we going to get a continuation in the downtrend, or are we going to get a recovery? If we're getting a recovery, how much is it going to be? Do you think anybody knows? Not really, but I would say that this flush here was a pretty good liquidation, flush. So I don't know if I would bet necessarily on further unless something, horrible happens to USDT or who knows, regulation. I mean, that's stuff that nobody can predict. Okay, it's going to go out of business. AXS, okay, this one doesn't look that good, but you've had a crossover on the MACD, so that's still fairly decent. BNB in here, look at this. This is beautiful. This is the biggest, rejection in a long time. From somewhere in the 200, 210 neighborhood, and it's coming back. So even if you're going to correct, that's probably like a nice buy signal. Then now let me have some coffee. Next we have Bitcoin. We talked about this one, so looks pretty good. Very similar to BNB, but this one actually was much more aggressive. So people like this one for some reason. All right, that's Bitcoin. We're going to pass that. Cake, nice, not such a long rejection, but a nice engulfing, a bullish engulfing on the daily time frames out of here. So that's pretty nice to see. Big flush down. Is this a fourth and a fifth? So again, just kind of be careful, but I think we're towards the end of something rather than the beginning of something in here after this big flush down. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Crypto.com, Crow, right there. I mean, I know people ask me to analyze and talk about altcoins and things like that, but I mean, look at this. These are mirror images. All of them look the freaking same, So you look at Ethereum or you look at, okay, you get one or two maybe outliers in there that look a little bit better, but or worse, right? But in general, like 98% of these things, they just kind of mimic each other. So if one goes, everything goes, So I don't even know. I mean, if you have an altcoin kind of service, what do you talk about all day long? Are you going to just kind of look to find those little coins that are 0.0 to kind of, give people some some dig down into some of these like super illiquid assets? I mean, yeah, some golden nuggets could come out of there, but listen, I'm tired of digging. These are the ones that I'm going to stick with, the kind of the larger caps and the ones that have been established, and then we'll see how they act. Here is EOS, which is, has been a pretty bad performer overall, but it's starting to come back. Ethereum Classic, big flush down. And what is this volume in here? Non-existent, and then all of a sudden, maybe that's a little bit of a fault in there. Ethereum, same story. What's the MACD in Ethereum? Still low, but trying to cross over. Filecoin, this one has been killing it to the downside in here. I still have it, so it's a little bit up higher here, somewhere up here. So I'm definitely in the hole, holding a bag. Their Flow, FTM, trying to come back. They're all trying to come back. FTT, so this one a major flush down, nice impulse back. What are you going to even target these things? I mean, look at the overhead supply in here. So you're going to hit your head above major levels of resistance if we're recovering. But it's better to see a recovery than not see a recovery. HNT, Link, And Link actually pulled back from some nice Elliott Wave levels and fib zones as well, along with Litecoin, which continues to lose value, but I still love this coin. I mean, it's one of the first ones that I've owned ever, and it looks good. Looks good since 2017. Luna, what? Okay, pass. We all know the Luna story. Mana, wow, look at this big spike in Mana, man. Okay, it's probably going to calm down a little bit more, maybe an ABC down still. So I don't know. I think it's been too aggressive. Like some of them are nice, but this is like, too much. So it's probably going to correct a bit more before it pushes again. Matic with a similar kind of reversal structure, if you can call it that. IOTA in here coming back with a nice hammer, nice fib zone. So I like IOTA. Near USD, a little bit more choppy, below the 50, below the 200. Rune or Rune, whatever you want to call it, on a 50% to 618 pullback of the latest rise. So we like that. Same on Sandbox. So if they want to react, these are the levels that they should react from. If we're making any lows, that means that this decline is not over. So back to the drawing board. But I'm not going to come here and just say, listen, I'm going to sell you all my coins because what? If you like crypto and you want to stay involved, you got to stay involved. And it's just about how much you want to risk with this stuff. And it is out there on the risk curve. It is out there on the risk curve. Otherwise, you can buy treasuries or hold cash or buy real estate. That's a little bit safer, or just kind of balance them out. Data, this one is close to new lows, but seems to be holding at least today. So not a super strong. Tronics, this one did not do like the others did. So it is holding, kind of coming back. I don't know. There's probably something happening with the chain, with the network, with all this Luna story and all this. I don't know. I don't understand anything about Tronics, but all I can see is that the chart did not push lower like the other ones did. Uniswap here coming back nicely. VeChain, this is RJ's favorite. Big sell-off lower. Who's this one that's making new lows? Waves, wow. See? I don't know. This one did not look that good. And if anything, it kind of gave you a rejection candle and it's looking the other way. So this one is looking the other way. It's not looking like whatever we've seen so far. So I don't know. Maybe there's a worse story happening with this coin than we know of. And then XLM, I like XLM. I'm holding it. This is, a nice reaction out of here. Monero, pretty strong reaction on this privacy coin. And then XRP, lower. They're still got to do their fight with the SEC. And Tezos looks pretty nice as well. I like Tezos. It's pretty stable. It's not that. So this is a low beta. Crypto, like there's a few there that are low beta that are not, moving as crazy in terms of percentages like the other ones do. Zcash, nice reaction of the lows with a nice hammer. And then Zilliqa, and that's it, or that's about it. Okay, let's jump over to take a look at the counts and see if there's anything interesting there happening on the shorter time frame. All right, I got to find my... Let me do this first. Okay. And now I have it, Motive Wave. Let's go. Okay. All right, Bitcoin. How are you, Bitcoin? It's a nice setback. I mean, I can't really count this bullish unless you're going on the futures market. But it came back in what looks to be just a nice three-wave. I'm going to take it as a gift into the 618. Might be a dip wish in here. Who knows, right? But if this holds, and you're getting above these levels, then, you can look at the quality back in here. Between this guy, this would be something that I would target right there, maybe towards 34. That would be good. Then the prospects of a fourth wave are getting diminished. as long as 26.7 holds. So I think it's a decent risk reward in here. The market's actually a little bit bullish. Take a look at the NASDAQ, but that's, the markets have not opened yet, 8:30. So we'll see. We'll see if they're going to be able to kind of squeeze risk higher today. That would be a beautiful thing to see, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Let's wait until we get above this level here, and then things could look a bit more interesting. I'm going to save this up because that's pretty cool. So that's that. What am I going to talk about the count? Because the count is still pointing lower. Because we seem to be missing a couple of subdivisions. So if you're looking at this thing as a 1, 2, 1, 2, then how are you going to squeeze 2 fourth waves into this decline? It's very hard. Okay, it's very hard to squeeze this degree and this degree into this decline and say that somewhat you have so something is wrong with that. Either we're not finished or this count is not correct. And maybe this is an A, B, and then down in C of a wave Y, which we have it here. So if the market rallies, it could be that it's a WXY through an A, B, and then, okay, you can maybe make a C wave out of this one right here. Just kind of a 3-wave move. But that's how I would look at it in case, we're rallying, because the more this goes up, if it does, hasn't done it yet, but the more this moves up, the harder it's going to be that it's going to be a fourth wave. You're probably going to have to do some kind of a flat in here in a second wave to kind of combine this with, so you would have to do like an A, B, and then up in C, but that doesn't work. You don't have a C wave. It's, I'm talking about proportions between the waves. So the higher we go on this fourth wave, the more issues we're going to have with this count continuing lower, because once you get above 50%, it's less likely that that's a fourth wave. So always keep that in mind. I mean, I would love for the counts to be perfect all the time and to work and to be awesome. Hey, the Elliott Wave, it's, always a super cool tool, but sometimes it's not, and it doesn't give you exactly what you're looking for. So you got to dig in, you got to find it, you got to, scramble and just, it's treacherous sometimes, but, price is king, okay? Price is king, and no wave count structure will supersede that, okay? Price will do what he wants to do, and if he wants to go up, and if your wave count doesn't show it, it's like, what happened? Well, life happened, price happened. It's going to show you something different. And that doesn't mean that Elliott Wave doesn't work. It's that under the circumstances, you're looking at it the wrong way. And that's kind of how I look at it. So until the market, either I look at a different method of analysis or, I accept this as being imperfect. And so far, after many, many years of using it, I still love it to death. And I think it's one of the best methods out there. But, you got to look at price. You got to look at sentiment, things that are underneath the hood, correlations, intermarket correlations. All these things matter because they influence the way the assets move across the globe. And Bitcoin has become, a very large part of that. So it gets influenced overall. Okay, well, let's take a look at a few other counts. I mean, you guys seen the chart room, and you've seen kind of what's going on in there in terms of the counts in some of these kind of major coins. I can go through them quickly one more time before I finish up here. We're taking a look at the BNB as a possible fourth wave, maybe completed at these lows. Very nice rejection higher out of here, as I've showed you before. So it's fair to assume that this was a pretty big low through the spike lower, and it's trying to recover. If you get above 404, even better. Keep an eye on the moving averages as well. But larger time frame, I think it's a pretty decent pullback and a pretty nice equality here between second and fourth. So we'll go with that. That. I'm repeating myself here, I know, but it's back into the 618, a little bit of an impulse off the lows with a little bit of a pullback. Early green shoots, I have to look at this as a 1-2. There is no fourth wave in here. So either a 1-2, but don't get yourself caught in this. It could be just an AB with a push higher in a C wave. Okay, so who knows if it's going to be a third wave? You know, not a magician, but this is the best I've got. So algo, very nice pullback into the 618, still struggling to rally, but larger frame here looks good. It's a decent pullback. We're holding this thing. We were able to take a little bit of profits, you know. Thanks God for taking some out there. So that was pretty good. Underwater with it, obviously, since I have it at about $1 and something. But you know, I do like this. I think it's a serious project, and there's a lot of work happening behind it. Now I'm into the 618. Not a bad place to add to it, if you ask me. So I'm going to consider that. That starts to look good. Let's see if we get a bit more confirmation, but it is definitely on my radar. ADA, big story on ADA in here, guys. Where is my count? Okay, here it is. Going back to a 1 day, right? I've done a video on it. A, B down in C. Rallying, struggling a little bit, selling off, but could be a major low here in ADA. That could very well be. So let's just look at this thing. You know, very short C wave, not into equality, but definitely not a fourth. If you ask me, I think that's a pretty good second, or a B, or a W of a larger second, right? If it is an ABC W, then you go up in X. This is a standard Elliott Wave stuff, up in X, and then down in the next decline, like that. Everything is the same except at a larger degree of trend. So ABCX, ABCW up in X, and then another decline, and then this wave too gets longer. And then you can get into a much larger, let's say, you know, shoot higher. Maybe regulation comes on and they say, wow, you know, these things are awesome, they can stay. And, you know, we all enjoy some rallies in ADA. I don't know ADA, maybe it's not a bad time to buy some. Litecoin, big frame. Beautiful 618, possible 78.6, close but no cigar. Nice decline. I like it. You know, could it go lower? Could it crash? Could it become zero? Of course it can. Anything can. But, you know, this is what I have here. I'm hanging on to it. I think it looks pretty good. ADA, I just touched on. Oh, what am I doing here? Because I didn't take them in alphabetical order, and that's why I'm all over the place. Dodge. Hey, listen, Dodge is interesting. Dodge is, you know, we were looking at this as a fourth wave at the primary degree, but what if this was over? What if this was over? And I think we've talked about this too, like that. And then it's just a fourth wave at the bigger degree, you know, like that. All you got to do is just kind of shift the degrees over. And this looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can have a nice third wave out of there. A little bit smaller than second, so you can argue that, but that's a guideline. And that means that Dodge could still be moving along for a while here. Let's go with that. But if risk comes back and Elon Musk buys Twitter and he puts Dodge as the primary coin out there, this thing can go to above, you know, to $1. Did we talk Link? Not yet. So Link here, very nice. Coming back into support, nice reaction out of here. I like it. I like Link. You know, pretty good flush down on it. What screws me up, it has such an ugly count overall, like the whole story here, because I got this crap there, but it is a very kind of choppy and uptrending move, you know, nice. But this is pretty cool if you ask me. I mean, if anything, you know, should go back towards this big supply at about $12. So there could be, you know, you can double from current levels in Link. Link, I talked about it. Matic, I don't know. Matic, I have a little bit of, I think it looked pretty good there when I looked at So maybe there's a fourth wave at this degree of trend happening now. So maybe a rally and then a little bit lower again. On Matic, Sol ABC, 100%. Should I anchor this? I might just do. I think there could be a nice rally coming here. Back there. In first resistance zones is right there, 78. Probably gonna hunt that. And then at least back to that level again. And then we'll see. If it's a W, again, just like I showed you before, X, and then more lower in a second. But definitely $51 for Sol, then $250. I mean, this thing was looking ugly. And then I kept saying, listen, I don't like it. Here we are, $51. Uniswap, still on the big list here. Bet count, I need to refresh this, guys. XRP into the 618. So it looks pretty good. Guys, the rest of the coins, I mean, nobody's here now. I'm by myself. Everybody left. So since there's no questions, no requests, I'm going to close this off. We've done this about an hour. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if any questions. If you want to send me an email, ewcafe@pm.me, or direct message, or on the chat. But as always, I appreciate you being part of this group, putting up with my ramblings in here. Hopefully this was helpful and gives you a comprehensive view of my thoughts and kind of what I see in the markets overall, starting from a top down, macro to all the way down to the cryptos. I'm going to take a look at the NASDAQ. They're still down about 1.1% here on the day with the markets opening in about an hour. So thanks, everybody. And I will be posting this, very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.